Money TV is back, and we're asking Wall Street the questions Main Street wants to know. We grill the founders and CEOs of publicly traded companies, the hard questions we can all relate to. No hiding behind websites, press releases, or apps. We're in your face. Real talk. But before we get into it, let's take a trip down memory lane.
Time once again for Money TV. I'm Donald Baillargeon. Thanks for being with us. Money TV is a program all about money, what makes it happen. This episode of Money TV is our 1200th original show. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for watching all of these many years. When we debuted in 1996, Money TV was seen in 10 cities once a week. Today, after 26 years of continuous broadcasting, Money TV is aired in more than 75 countries to over 200 million TV households, many times per week. We have featured more than 5,000 interviews with emerging company executives, and Money TV was the very first business television program to also be available to watch over the internet. 26 years ago, small public companies had no outlet to tell their story, and investors were hard-pressed to discover them. Money TV coverage provided that reciprocal fund. We're going to have some fun looking back on this week's show. We're also steadfastly looking forward to the next 1200.
Hi, thanks for joining us for another edition of Money TV. I'm Don Baillargeon. With me, of course, is Skip Linneman. Money TV, the program all about money and what makes it happen. And the big subject, of course, this week, Skip, is the price of gas. And, of course, next weekend being Memorial Day weekend, and here in the U.S., the traditional start of the summer driving season. And statistics came out from a survey saying that even though the price of gas is hovering close to $4 in many places, we're not going to see a downturn in driving, and I guess because, look, some stations saying financing available.
Well, it's been a week that's had three things that have dominated trading. You've had Chairman Greenspan, you've had earnings, and you've had world events. And let's go through each one of these things and how they've affected the price action. The chairman and the comments that have been made by the Fed governors have really been carefully examined time and time again by traders and investors. Remember, if they raise rates too quickly, they can choke off this recovery.
Here in New York City at the American Stock Exchange, this is Money TV. Thanks for joining us. I'm Don Baillargeon. Of course, Money TV is a program all about money and what makes it happen.
Some of the most active stocks trading this week on the American Stock Exchange include Crystal X International Corporation, symbol CRY, previously featured here on Money TV, announced the economic viability of its Las Crucenas gold project located in southeastern Venezuela has been confirmed by a full feasibility study completed by SNC Lavalin engineers and constructors. A copy of the study will be available early next week on the company's website.
So along those lines, that side of our business is really starting to gain a lot of traction. We think that for the foreseeable future, we're going to be able to see a lot of growth there and really turn that into a viable part of our ongoing business.
We've stated that we're going to do 10 to 15 million, and we closed on 2.4 million in the first quarter and another 800,000 right after the quarter ended. And then we have signed letters of intent for another 4 million. So that means we're about 7.7 million scheduled to close between now and the end of the second quarter. So I think we're on target there too.
Well, you've probably noticed it's pretty difficult to spend any time watching TV these days without seeing commercials for pharmaceuticals. Drug makers are going to end up spending close to $5 billion this year. So if you're hoping for any relief from the nonstop ads for Viagra, Humira, Lyrica, Cialis, forget it. They aren't going anywhere anytime soon. Now, the only TV ads that will soon begin to compete for time with the pharmaceuticals are going to be those for the upcoming presidential election. Now, pharmaceutical commercials tell us how wonderful the drug can be for us just prior to launching into hastily read and somewhat disturbing medical disclaimers revealing some fairly nasty side effects. Made me wonder what political ads could be like if they were required to include the same kinds of warnings.
Well, we've acquired another 2,500 acres with wells on it that we're going to put back on production. In fact, we have a rig moving out to one of the wells today in Wilson County. And we have two other rigs that are operating in Gonzales County on wells that we're cleaning out.
Now, voters in California a few years ago recalled former Governor Gray Davis and replaced him with Arnold Schwarzenegger. But even the Terminator has been unable to heroically rescue the state from its budget woes. In fact, many of the problems have actually become much worse. A couple of months ago, the governor and legislative leaders agreed on spending cuts, borrowing, and budgetary card tricks to solve an impasse during which the state was issuing IOUs to pay its bills. It was painful. $7 billion in education funding disappeared, along with more than $1 billion in health cuts. But cuts alone are not working because tax revenues for the state were down by more than $1 billion in the first quarter alone. So California's looking to other methods of raising revenues, and one could say they're considering taking the high road, in a sense. Lots of talk this week in California about legalizing marijuana. Estimates of potential tax revenues from pot range from $1 to $2 billion per year.
Well, I think it will be interesting to your viewers. It will provide just one more avenue to understanding in a little bit more detail what this ambitious company, Grow Life, is up to. And we will make on our best efforts basis to keep it updated, but there's a lot of information available on the core company and the direction we're going, and hopefully it'll be well received by investors.
Sure. We start from a scientific approach, and what makes us the gold standard is our methodology. We start by testing. We have a full lab, and we test the raw plant materials to see what they contain, and we do extensive testing. Without testing, you don't know what is contained within the plant to start with and what you might need to extract from the plant, such as pesticides or even heavy metals. Once having tested the plant, we have a proprietary process, which is closest to a chemical process of doing our extraction and conversion. And because of our methodology, we're able to get a cleaner finished product with more Delta-9 THC. So that gives the people that we are processing for an advantage over other processing that they may have been using.
And as you can tell, we're on location again. We're on location in Phoenix, Arizona, at a wonderful event called the Phoenix Financial Test. And as you can see, we are still on location in Las Vegas at the accredited member small cap conference. So much information here, so many different companies, so many different investors. We needed 2 shows to bring it to you. As you can tell, we are on location this week. We're on location in Scottsdale, Arizona. As you can tell, we're on location in probably one of the most beautiful places in the world, Vail, Colorado. We're at another accredited members conference. This is part 1 of a 2-part series we'll be doing here from this conference. There are hundreds of high net worth accredited investors here, talking to dozens of companies, issuers, small companies with fascinating technologies, incredible business operations.
As you can see, we are on location. We're on location at the Accredited Members Conference in Colorado Springs. I'm Donald Baillargeon. So glad you could be with us. Now, just across this wall, which you can't see, there's about 300 or 400 accredited investors. They're listening to these interesting presentations from about 20 or 30 different small cap companies. We're going to be talking to a variety of these small cap companies during this week's program. And what happened this week was President Obama spoke to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, an organization which he's not had the rosiest relationship with during his 2 years in office. Now, this was supposed to be the new improved Obama, Obama 2.0, the Obama that saw the angst and anger of the American people as a result of the midterm elections, and has decided to move closer to the center and reach across that bipartisan aisle. Now, in one passage from the speech, the president said America's success didn't happen by accident. It happened because of the conviction that in this country, hard work should be rewarded, that opportunity should be there for anyone willing to reach for it. Well, I promised you something special at the top of the show, and my next guest is with me now, Mr. Michael Reagan. Of course, he's a noted author. He is a political consultant. Of course, he is also the son of the great President Ronald Reagan. Michael, great to have you here.
Good to be here.
Now, I understand you have a new book, too.
New Reagan Revolution has been out about 2 weeks, and it's doing great.
You know, it's kind of full circle having you on the show, because when I started MoneyTV 15 years ago, I launched it by advertising on your radio show.
Yeah, and you're still standing, which is really great. You know, I left radio about 1.5 years ago because I got so involved. I have my own little foundation, Reagan Legacy Foundation. I'm writing, I'm out speaking. It's like radio really got in the way of all the other things I needed to do. And, you know, carrying on my father's legacy is not an easy thing either.
Of course, the event that you're at right now that you just completed, there were thousands of people that showed up to meet Danny DeVito, and he signed, I guess, many bottles of limoncello. Now, this is the very first product that Danny DeVito has attached his name to. How did you attract Danny to the project?
Well, like I said in my previous answer, I had the great fortune of meeting Danny in March of '07, and we say collectively that it was love at first sight. And I underline the word love because, you know, in love there's passion, and Danny has the passion for this product. I've been involved in this business a long time, and my forte is finding good product and good partners. And I knew that to have somebody like Danny DeVito's name on the product, it just could not stop at that. It had to be, as we say in the business, in the bottle. So the liquid itself is the best, most premium limoncello that you can buy. It's the limoncello that people in Sorrento drink, people on the Amalfi drink. It's all natural, no flavorings, no additives of any time, no infusions. It's simply 4 wonderful ingredients: the natural rind of the lemon, the skin without the white backing, which is known as the pith, sugar, water, and grain neutral spirits.
That's always been my MO. I can't be a spokesman for anything that I don't use myself and that I don't believe in, and that I haven't sort of checked out to see if it's everything we claim. So when these guys came and they had already a profitable meat packing business, but they wanted to expand, and they had the idea, which appealed to me instantly, of a Paul Newman approach, which was giving charitably to people who bought those food products.
What I do now is I do a live CEO briefing in Zoom each week. Last week's was almost 45 minutes.
Wow.
It included a video for the purpose, which we'll play shortly. And also just a tremendous amount of news about what's happening in our business. And also I get a chance to explain the whole decentralization phenomenon. You see, people don't realize that decentralization is happening, even as it's happening. For example, we know by 2030, most transportation will be self-driving cars.
Right.
People don't believe that.
No, they don't.
They're like, nope, I'll always be driving my car. I'm like, yeah, it'll go from $5,000 to $500 a year. You're gonna let it self-drive. You're gonna save a lot of money. And so if it's that, but that's well along.
Right.
Now, 10 years ago, you bought Tesla stock at $30. Now it's $750.
Right.
First thing we do is we put their money in order with our Simply Budgets program. We show them where their payments are and when they're going to come out of their account and all that stuff, to give them that roadmap. And then we take those payments and we put them on a credit report so that when lenders are trying to give them a car loan or a mortgage loan, they actually see the rent and the electric and the insurance. It's ironic that people pay their insurance payments every month, but when you go to apply for insurance, they pull your credit to see what your credit score is, and that dictates your premium.
Is we've always felt the future of reading, whether it's books or magazines or newspapers, all moving obviously towards the internet. So the digital distribution of content is really the wave of the future. In fact, I just picked this up this morning. This week's Fortune magazine puts it right on the cover.
Wow.
The future of reading, all talking about how technology is impacting reading and how we consume that kind of material. And we've seen in the entertainment industries, obviously everything's moving towards a digital distribution front.
I remember a great party game when I was in college was try to get people to remember the names of the 7 dwarfs from the Snow White stories. Now, it was pretty easy to come up with Happy, Sleepy, and Dopey, but after that, people had a more difficult time, and that's when the fun began. Kind of reminds me of the candidates who have declared for president in 2016. Somewhere around 20 at last count when you combine both the Republicans and the Democrats. We could have a new party game. Name the candidates, kind of like the 7 dwarfs. Now, Donald Trump, he acts grumpy, but he's easily the most happy because he's surged to the top of the GOP polls largely on the strength of the media's all Trump all the time programming. I've never seen such 24/7 coverage of a single candidate as we've witnessed with Trump. If the Donald were to jaywalk one day, CNN would no doubt break from regular programming with exclusive traffic cam footage and Wolf Blitzer commentary.
It's just that, Don. As a matter of fact, I think it's worth talking for just briefly about how important solar energy is to us personally. My partners and I feel that solar energy is the future of energy and that we have a real commitment to it. We think that that's what mankind is supposed to use to power itself. And the thing that disturbed us was that solar energy was being used, but it was not economical at all.
Hi, we're back. Thanks for staying with us. Time now to check in with the Mortgage Minute guy, Roger Schlesinger. Roger?
Thanks, Don. The Fed has announced that they're going to complete their $1.25 trillion purchases of mortgage-backed securities, which has helped keep our mortgage rates low, and they figure that they'll probably finish by the first quarter in 2010. Well, don't believe it, because if we have any pickup in holiday sales, they'll stop on a dime and start raising rates. Right now, we have most of our rates in the 4% range, and I do not expect to see them in the 3% range unless something really drastic happens.
Well, then there's Chrysler. You know, poor Chrysler. They have such a bad reputation over the last 20 years for selling noisy, creaky, poorly constructed vehicles. Why, just this week, a friend of mine was stranded on the LA freeways by his Dodge. Now, Chrysler hopes to generate billions of dollars in profits to repay U.S. government loans and revamp all of its cars and trucks with a very ambitious plan that hinges on doubling their sales in 5 years. Now, the plan includes spending $23 billion to overhaul or replace all its Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram models by 2014. It's said to be realistic as demand improves over the next 5 years. This is according to Sergio Marchionne, Chrysler's new CEO, who has turned around Italian automaker Fiat.
Well, you know, I guess it's probably two things. First, you look at supply and demand. There's an enormous need in medicine to repair tissues that wear out as a function of aging or disease. The leading killer in the United States remains heart disease. And when you have a heart attack, you know, the heart cannot repair itself. Unlike the skin, when you cut your skin, it can repair itself. The heart cannot. And there's this whole raft of unmet needs in medicine, and obviously very large markets. And what has happened in the last few years is it's been possible to make new stem cells. They can branch out. They're called stem cells because they branch out like the branches of a tree. That can make everything in the human body. And on top of that, the second aspect is it fits beautifully into the biotechnology model. These new cells are perfect, really, for manufacturing. So we envision it's going to be possible, you know, and it is happening now, to make an assembly line, essentially, manufacturing limitless quantities of virtually every cell of the human body.
Well, that's show number 1200. We'll see you back here next week, number 1201. Thanks for joining us.
25 years ago, Donald Baillargeon had an idea. What if you put a real company, a real founder on television and just let them tell the truth? No teleprompter, no PR handler, no spin. MoneyTV became America's syndicated business show. 180 million households, 75 countries, 1,251 episodes over 25 years. Donald interviewed some of the biggest names in business. People like Michael Reagan, Carol Shelby, Pat Boone, Danny DeVito, and even Boyz II Men. Because Donald understood something most companies never figured out. People don't invest in spreadsheets. They invest in people. Now we're back with a whole new format. We're taking this iconic show into a new era as a podcast. I'm CJ Melone, and I've built businesses in every industry you can think of. I know what's real, and I know what's not, and we're about to get at it. We're going to be interviewing the most exciting founders, executives, and businesses across every industry. We're going to get into the real meat and money of it. So stay tuned. We're coming to a streaming platform near you. And to all you founders and CEOs, if you think you can handle this seat, you know where to find us.